What's going on, nation? Today I'm going to share with you guys 2 advanced bicep building techniques that you can apply to any biceps exercise. And now at this point, I hope that the majority of you have tried my cheat and recover style of training. And even if you haven't, at the end of the video, I will go over how to apply these 2 techniques to that style of training. So keep that in mind and stay tuned to the end. And now guys, a lot of people in the gym, especially when it comes to biceps, they always try to find ways to make this exercise easier. And if you're making the exercise easier, you might be lifting more weight, but you're not necessarily engaging your biceps more and creating that strong mind-muscle connection that you need in order to see growth. And what do you see in the gym? Well, the most common things that you'll see is swing curls, where people do this and let the weight drop, or you'll see them starting with their palms facing in and then supinating halfway up before they get to the top of the position and come back down. And then obviously the most common thing that you'll see is half reps, where you're basically just kind of hooking the dumbbell, not really getting any bicep engagement at all. These are things you do not want to do. If your goal is to body build, you want to smash those biceps as hard as you can with as much weight as possible in order to get as much muscle damage as possible for regrowth. That's how you build big arms. So, with that being said, the first technique I'm going to demonstrate for you guys is something called a limp wrist curl. And what the limp wrist curl is going to do is it's going to allow you to get a better mind-muscle connection for a stronger contraction on every single repetition. And the way you perform it is very simple. And you can utilize this method with dumbbells and a barbell, but I'm just going to demonstrate on a dumbbell so you guys can see it easier and what I'm trying to do. So, first of all, whenever you start any bicep movement, I like to keep my palms facing forward. Reason being, because one of the functions of the bicep is to supinate your hand like this. So if you're starting already in the supinated position, you're already activating your biceps at the bottom of the movement. That's key, guys. Now, as you begin to curl the weight up, as soon as you get to about halfway, you're going to start to let your wrist go limp and then go all the way to the top of the movement, flexing and squeezing your bicep as hard as you can. And essentially what you've done at this point is by going limp and loosening your grip, you've taken your forearm out of the movement. So if you're the kind of person where your forearms start to fatigue before your biceps, this is going to greatly help you be able to establish a stronger mind-muscle connection for a harder contraction at the top of the movement. And an added benefit of using a dumbbell is that when you get to the very top of the position, you can actually supinate a bit more for a slightly harder contraction in your biceps. And then once you're done, you're going to return to the starting position, keeping your wrist limp, but then when you get about halfway, start to straighten out and go down to the bottom of the movement like this. So very simple, guys. On every single repetition, you're going to come up halfway, start to go limp, flex and squeeze as hard as you can, turn your wrist as much as you can, supinate that wrist, and then return back to the starting position, and you don't want to have limp wrist at the bottom. And this is actually going to bring us into the next advanced technique, which is something that I like to call, well, it doesn't really have a specific name. It's just keeping a slight curl in your wrist at the bottom of the movement and, throughout the negative portion of the movement. And this is going to really play into the cheat and recover reps as well, which I'll go over after. So, like I said, when doing the limp wrist curl, you don't want to go down with your wrist limp. And now, a lot of people tend to claim that the reason why they don't do full extensions on bicep curls, the reason why they do half reps, is because they want to keep tension in the biceps. We all know that's bullshit, and they're just ego lifting, and it's because they can't handle the weight they're actually using. As long as your hand is supinated at the bottom of the movement, you still have your biceps engaged, period. But if you want to add a little extra engagement and intensify the movement a bit more, something that I like to do is actually curl my wrist slightly forward like that at the bottom of the movement. And I maintain that as I come up. And then when I get to about here, I let my wrist go limp, go to the top of the position, supinate, come back down. And when you get halfway, instead of keeping the straight wrist, curl it up a little as you get to the bottom of the movement. And even with a 20-pound dumbbell, guys, as soon as you curl that wrist slightly up, from the motion of here, going down to here, you're going to feel a lot more engagement through the bottom portion of the bicep. Now, granted, the whole bicep is being engaged, but you're going to feel a bit more tension through here. And for those of you guys who are trying to work on the entire bicep, or maybe you have a bigger gap at the bottom, granted, genetics are going to play a big role in how big this gap is. If you want to try to hit the bottom of the bicep a bit more, I found that this works quite well when trying to do so. So a quick recap, guys. The first advanced technique is the limp wrist curl. As you start to bring the weight up, when you get to about halfway, you can let your wrist go limp and focus on the contraction. And the second technique is going to be having a slight upwards curl in the wrist as soon as you get to about halfway, and then back down to the bottom portion of the movement. And now if you want to apply this to a barbell, you can basically do the same exact thing. So I'm going to get a neutral grip on the bar, so about shoulder width. And then as I'm curling, I'm going to come up halfway. As soon as I get halfway, let the wrist go limp. Focus on a hard bicep contraction. Squeeze as hard as you can. Then as you go down, curl your wrist slightly up so that when you get to the bottom position just like this, your wrists are in a slight upward position. So you guys can see my wrists are slightly pointed up. And then what I'll actually do is maintain that slight curl as I start to bring the weight up as well. And then it'll kind of go neutral from here to here. But on the way down, guys, if you curl your wrist up the entire way, you will feel more engagement throughout your bicep, at least in the eccentric portion of the movement. Now, if you want to apply these techniques to my cheat and recover style of training, it's going to work a bit differently. Remember, when you do cheat and recover, the whole point of the 8 cheat reps is to overload the muscles as much as possible in the eccentric portion of the movement, and we're actually skipping the concentric phase. So, when you do the 8 cheat reps, you're actually not going to worry about flexing your bicep at all. You're going to use a bit of momentum to bring the weight all the way to the top portion of the movement, and then really focus on that negative and slightly curl your wrist forward as you do so. So we're only using technique number 2 on the cheat reps because we're skipping the concentric portion of the movement. So bring it up, slightly curl your wrist forward, and then bring it down just like this. However, when you get to the recover reps, the recover reps are supposed to be proper form, so that's when you'll implement technique 1 and technique 2 on every single rep. And for those of you who are still confused about what cheat and recover is and how the set actually works, you basically load as much weight as you can, either dumbbells or barbells when doing a bicep curl. You're going to do 8 cheat reps where you skip the concentric phase of the movement. As soon as you finish those 8 reps, you're going to put the weight down, lower the weight, and then immediately do your 8 recover repetitions, and only resting after you complete all 16 reps. That's how it works. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. And this technique will definitely help you start to see bicep gains, especially if you're starting to plateau, or maybe biceps are a problem area for you. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn on video notifications so you never miss a new video upload. And if you guys are looking for full 12-week muscle building programs, be sure to check mine out on my website, muscularstrength.com. No bullshit, guys, just like straight up 12-week programs, not doing anything fancy, just utilizing techniques like this to help you build muscle and make gains. And all those links are down in the info section below. And as always, more good stuff coming soon. See you guys.